Hi everyone, and welcome to Meet the Graduate, where we talk to real graduates about their life and career after university. Today we're joined by Olivia. Hi Olivia, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. To talk about her life after university and her journey trying to get her foot in the door of the media industry and pursue her dream career. So first things first, Olivia, would you mind telling us what you studied, when you graduated, and what you do now?
Yes, so I studied at the Uni of Edinburgh and I studied Spanish and history. I graduated just about a year ago, 2019, and I now work as a junior studio manager, that's my title at the moment, at a radio station in Manchester.
Super cool. Nice to have someone from the arts and media on the series. So like you said, you studied Spanish and history, which is obviously pretty different to media and radio. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the kind of things you might have done at university to help prepare you for the career that you wanted to go into, and how you kind of decided that media and radio was something that you wanted to pursue, considering it wasn't, related to your university subject.
Yeah, so it was like a really difficult process actually, because of exactly like you said, I didn't study anything really to do with what I wanted to do. But my journey really was that I went to uni not knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to work in media, but didn't really have any experience, so wasn't sure. So I just studied like my two favorite things. And then when I got to uni, pretty quickly I decided I wanted to join the Student Radio Society, which was really what kind of guided me then into deciding I wanted to work in media and radio specifically. And I urge anyone that's like interested in that to do student radio, because it is just like where anyone that wants to do radio or work in media goes there, and you meet so many like-minded people, and it's also just really fun even if you don't want to work in radio. So I did that in second year. I started a radio show with some friends, and then I went on my year abroad because I studied Spanish. I had to go away for a year, so I moved to Argentina. And when I was there, I also started a podcast. And again, kind of with the idea at that point that I wanted to work in radio. So I thought, okay, I need to do some proactive things, but also just it's what I was really passionate about, and I wanted to do that anyway. So I did that, and then I came back. And in my fourth year, I had another radio show with another friend, which was really fun. And that's when I really got into like properly producing radio, again just for fun for other students, but that was really the point I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. And because, as you said, I didn't study any of that after uni, that those practical experiences of having done student radio and started my own creative things was really helpful.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's important to say I didn't do those things because I was trying to get a job in radio, because if I wanted that I would have studied radio. It would have been much easier. But because I really wanted to do those things and I'd done them, it was much easier to get a job after, I think.
Yeah, that's super interesting. You kind of took your passion and took advantage of the spare time you have at university to explore different things and turned it basically into a career. So you used your free time at uni to kind of find something you're really passionate about. Then you end up graduating, which is great. You make it through uni, and now it's time to look for a job and kind of job search within the media industry. Could you tell me a bit about what that was like, whether you suffered any setbacks, whether you encountered any problems, and how you kind of went about that? Because like we've said before, you didn't have a degree in radio or in media production.
Yeah, so it was like, as I said, a really difficult and long process, because I was competing when I was graduating against loads of students that have studied really specific things. Like there are lots of degrees in media production, even like radio production, I think you can do. So I was definitely at a disadvantage there. So in my final year, I started applying for grad schemes and jobs for when I finish, which lots of people do. It's slightly different in media. There are less kind of specific grad jobs, but I applied for, there are a couple of BBC schemes, and anyone that's looking to get into media, I'm sure will know of them. They're amazing, but they're incredibly competitive. So I applied for a couple, got to like the second round, but didn't get any further, and that did really like set me back, because
Yeah, of course.
I felt like okay, I've got a degree and I've done loads of stuff in radio, so surely I'll be able to get at least to the third stage. But there are so many talented people, and in media you don't need to have a degree, which I think is a great thing, but it does just mean there's so many people competing for the same jobs. So I kind of thought, okay, there's no shame in going like back to basics, so I just applied for loads of work experience things and unpaid stuff, and I managed to get a BBC work experience placement, which again are really competitive. I applied I think 3 times and got it on my third time. So that was in the June or July that I finished uni. So I stayed, and it was in Scotland, it was for BBC Scotland, so I stayed up in Edinburgh and did that 2-week placement, which I really think was kind of what got me onto everything afterwards, because that's just such amazing experience. So I did that, and then they kept me on for the August Fringe Festival. The BBC, Radio Scotland do a lot of coverage of the Fringe Festival, so I came as like a runner. So basically like making teas and coffees, getting people to where they need to be on time, and just all the behind the scenes stuff, which again was amazing, but like really hard work, because everyone just asks you to do anything. But really good, even for like meeting other people that are doing similar things, or just you'd be amazed by just the people you meet that you don't know will come in useful, which is not the right term because they're people, but will help you along the way. So that was only a week, but from that I then made some other connections that got me some other bits of experience here and there, mostly in Scotland, and then I moved back to Manchester, which is where I'm originally from, and then everything kind of dried up, which was strange because it had felt like everything was go and I was moving in the right direction, meeting people, getting experience, and then I moved home and suddenly there was nothing. Yeah, so I was emailing people every day. It was like a full-time job, just sending emails and CVs, applying for stuff, but also just sending like emails to people that I thought might have something, saying this is me, have you got anything, unpaid, paid, whatever. And there was a couple of months where I was not really getting anything, which was difficult, definitely. And then, sorry, I'm just having a sip of water. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe this isn't going to happen for me, because again, I didn't do a degree in it. I had experience, but like not really that much when you compare to people that have studied it for 3 or 4 years and know everything about it. So I was just applying for other jobs, temp jobs, anything just to earn some money. And then it all kind of changed when I got a response I was literally in the car park about to go into an interview to work at Aldi, and I got a email from a radio station which I now work at, offering me an unpaid placement. So I did it, and that was a difficult point as well, and I'm sure lots of people have had this, where you're deciding between going for something paid but maybe not necessarily in what you want to do, or like taking a chance. And it can feel like, I think as a recent graduate, you're being taken advantage of a bit sometimes with unpaid stuff, and I didn't want that to happen to me. But I was like really lucky enough that I live in or just outside of Manchester, which is kind of a hub now for radio and media, so I was able to stay living at home whilst I did this unpaid internship. And then, after a couple of months, that turned into something paid, which is now what I do.
Such an important kind of story introductory. There's so much there that I want to get into. But first of all, I was just thinking maybe you could talk a bit more about how you felt leaving university, graduating, kind of getting through your degree, and then being faced with the prospect of doing bits of work experience that maybe last 2 weeks here or there, and kind of emailing and trying to network, just trying to, you know, get any experience you can. Whereas a lot of your peers, I'm sure, were starting grad schemes or starting full-time jobs. I think that's something that can be quite difficult to deal with. I think in the same way that you said that you feel a bit like you're being taken advantage of, or that you've just spent, you know, 3 or 4 years studying, kind of gaining some real skills, and you're kind of going back to nothing. So I wonder if you've got anything to say on how you felt or how you managed to kind of stay positive through that.
Yeah, I definitely think it is hard, but I'm so happy. I know it's like so cliche, but I wouldn't have had it any other way, because I met some really interesting and lovely people that helped me. And they're like, I don't necessarily work at those stations, but I've kept in touch with them, and you never know what could come of that. So, but yes, it definitely was hard being like, I felt like I was good at radio production things, and I felt like I deserved to be paid for it. But it just, this industry in particular just doesn't work like that. Like it's pretty ruthless and brutal and competitive. So if you don't want to go back to doing unpaid stuff and having work experience, you're just not, it's not for you, really. It's harsh to say, but you won't, there's no way you're just going to walk into a job, right? I don't think, unless I just missed something. I don't think there's any way you'll just walk into an amazing job and be earning loads. And if you're wanting to go into media, you know, like you already know that you don't get into the industry to earn loads of money and have an easy time. But yeah, as you mentioned, like networking was so key. I remember one like event particularly I went to, because networking is not my thing and I don't enjoy it. It doesn't come naturally to me. But there was a women in radio event in Glasgow, and if anyone is in Scotland, that it's called the Radio Academy, I think it is. But basically they put on loads of events, and I went to one in Glasgow with another friend from the student radio station, and we just went, and it was basically like loads of people that are quite high up in the radio industry, but it was a free event to go to, and then just me and my friend, and we were a bit like, were we meant to come here? But we were just like listening to all these speakers. They were all amazing, talking about the importance of helping other people into radio and all this kind of stuff. And then afterwards we were just like, right, let's just go up to people. We both asked a question in the Q&A bit to try and make sure like everyone knew who we were. And then afterwards we were just like, let's just do it. Like it's cringeworthy and difficult, but you just got to do it. So we just went up to all these people being like, we're students, we would love to work in radio, do you have any like experience we could have? And like honestly, about 5 people gave me their emails. I then followed up and went and to all their stations. So yeah, even though none of those things came of anything, and I did have the awkward, like at the end of the couple of days experience, saying, okay, have you got anything paid for me? And they were like, no. It's awkward, but you just have to ask. But I've kept in touch with those people, and yeah, I mean, it just taught me like to be resilient, and as hard as it is, it was worth it to now get the job that I have, because also where I work now is not somewhere where I necessarily thought I would be. It's a radio station, but it's a non-profit organisation as well, and we get young people into employment through teaching them media skills. So I'm doing a lot of that stuff, which I've never thought I would do. I just thought, ideally I'll end up working at the BBC as a radio producer and my life will be set, but I've had such a different path because those alleyways were difficult to get into. So yeah, I think as hard as it is to go back to having to do work experience, you'll end up finding exactly like where you want to work rather than going into an easy path, maybe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's something that we try and really push here, that sometimes the career you think you're supposed to, or the career journey you think you're supposed to have, is sometimes not the right one for you. Also, I love what you're saying about networking, because I think for students and grads who maybe don't have much professional confidence, networking is so scary and so intimidating, and they think that everyone who does it, I'm definitely like this as well, they think everyone who does networking is super confident and enjoys it loads, but sometimes it's really uncomfortable, but you just have to do it. And I think you've given some really good practical advice by kind of like giving yourself pep talk and forcing yourself to kind of go up and speak to people. So yeah, agreed. All of everything you've said is great advice, but I think maybe we'll move on now to talk a bit about starting your job. So how you felt, or it was unpaid internship then. So how you felt about starting your role, and you know how you kind of, it was your dream job, right? It was your dream industry. How you felt actually reaching that stage and settling into the industry.
Yeah, well, it was definitely a relief, I would say, more than anything, because I wasn't sure if it was going to happen for me, if I would get anything paid in radio, just because it had been, since I left uni, it had been like 6-7 months of doing unpaid stuff and like traveling around the UK. I was just going anywhere that people had offered me a 1 day experience, 2 days experience. I was going. So I was like going up to Glasgow, staying on my friend's sofa, staying in Edinburgh, but having to get up at like 4 a.m. to get the train to Glasgow on time. Like, it was a relief to have something like solid and paid. So I would say that was my main feeling, but also like obviously really exciting that I'd found a place that the people are really lovely, because again, I think media, because it's so competitive, the people can be a little bit, not mean, but like you've got to be great, make a great first impression. So where I work doesn't feel like that. Like the people are so nice, which I think is probably rare in media. And yeah, just great to be able like have your own projects to do, because as well, when you're doing work experience or unpaid internships, which I was doing, a lot of the stuff you're doing is kind of not the most interesting stuff, which is fair enough. But to have finally like a job that was just for me, and I kind of, because I get to be creative, which is what I always wanted to do, so I'm making the things that I want to make and making my own projects. So to have a bit of like autonomy over what I'm doing every day has been really nice as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's super important. I'm not sure if you covered this already, but how did you find the transition from the unpaid internship or the work experience that you were doing into, you know, your role now, which is a permanent, full-time paid position? How did you find that transition, and yeah, how did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so I was working where I work, there are lots of volunteer opportunities and then internships. So wasn't the only one. There was quite a few of us, and pretty much. So I was doing that for about 2 months, and I was really fortunate enough that I was able to do it full time. So you can be an intern. They offered me like 1 day a week, 1 day every 2 weeks, because a lot of the other people that volunteer are studying alongside it.
Right.
So because obviously I was like, well, this is either going to happen for me now or it's not going to happen, I just thought, let's just do it. So I was there 5 days a week. So it kind of felt like I was a staff member, just because I was there every day. And the longer I was there, the more responsibility I was being given, because I was just like always there and enthusiastic, which is key. Like if you make it seem like you don't care, they're not going to keep you around. You have to be enthusiastic. And then a paid opportunity came up after I'd been interning for about 2 months, which they said they thought I'd be great for. So I applied. I still had to go through the application, of course, and had an interview with the people I've been working with for like 2 months. And then I got that. So that was only a 3-month contract. So I was pretty much doing what I was doing whilst I was unpaid but now paid, which was also quite weird. Which, if anyone goes from like unpaid to paid in the same place, it can feel a bit weird, like, oh, I was doing this but you just weren't paying me, and you know, it feels a bit bit weird. But anyway, so I was doing that, and then I was finishing that 3-month contract when coronavirus hit and we all had to work from home. So I had like the last 2 weeks of that contract working from home, and I really didn't think that they would keep me on, and I was preparing myself and applying for other stuff, and actually worth saying, applying for other stuff and getting much further than I ever had done before.
Wow.
Because I've now had a paid job, which it's so true what they say, like once you've got your foot in the door, it's so much easier to carry on. But then luckily because it's a non-profit, they were applying for funding and stuff, and they managed to get funding for a few projects, so I was kept on full-time, and I'm still there full-time. Again, like, I'm there full-time for now, because in media a lot of stuff is freelance, and I freelance 1 day a week, and then I'm on their staff 4 days a week. So it's been a good experience. All the stuff I've done before, like having to be adaptable, and someone saying, do you want to come to Glasgow for 2 days experience, come tomorrow, and being able to do that, all that kind of stuff has, like, I think been really valuable for working in radio, because so much of it is freelance, and can you work on this project next week, and then you won't hear from anyone for another month, you know. So I'm there for now, but I'm also like maintaining those connections, because you never know when you'll need to work for yourself again. So yeah, I don't know if I even answered your question there.
That was great. And I think that we use the word career journey, or the phrase career journey, so much because, like you've just demonstrated by telling me that bit of your story, it really is a journey. Just leaving university and getting your first job feels amazing, and it is a real achievement to be celebrated, but it doesn't mean that your career stops there, because there's always the next step, or something like coronavirus happens and everything changes. And I also just wanted to pick up a bit as well on you talking about adaptability and kind of going from work experience to unpaid internships to paid internships, and how that can kind of help you with your future career, whether that's in radio, whether that's in something else. Are there any other, putting you a bit on the spot, but are there any other skills you think you gained from doing the work experiences and from doing kind of living that lifestyle where you were just trying to get experience anywhere you got, that you think are kind of important to any career?
Yeah, I think like just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Every time I walked into a new place, it was just so uncomfortable, and I would say I'm a confident person, but it is just so daunting and intimidating walking into a new place where you're the work experience person that no one really wants there, and like trying to make a good impression but not being too like annoying, like asking for loads of stuff to do, but you do want to do stuff while you're there, and knowing that you're only going to be there for 1 day, 2 days, maybe a week if you're lucky, and then that, you know, you're gone, and it is uncomfortable. So I think that was definitely something I learned that is useful in like all careers, is just to like, it's going to be uncomfortable, everyone knows it is, you just have to try your best to make it as like not uncomfortable as possible and make a good impression. It's really hard, like, to show you're enthusiastic and be good at, like, show that you're good at that job, but be at work experience. It's really hard, and I would just say every time I did it, it got a bit easier. And the uncomfortable conversation at the end of the week, like, have you got anything paid in the future? It's never going to be easy, but it does get easier. And like follow-up emails, all that stuff, I've got it down to an art now because I've had to do it so much. And I think that will always come in useful, like shamelessly emailing people and say, have you got anything for me? And if they say no, they say no. But people do say yes, so it's definitely worth like asking.
Yeah. I think there's so much to be appreciated in, one, growing your confidence, but two, getting used to doing things that scare you, getting used to doing things that are outside your comfort zone or that don't feel natural to you, because you're right, the more you do them, the easier it gets. And obviously we've spoken a lot about radio today, but this kind of experience is applicable to so many different industries, and also quite applicable now in Corona, where there might not be an excess of, paid experience or paid jobs, but there's loads of work experience or volunteer opportunities that are still out and about. So even if you're not interested in radio or media specifically, these tips are super useful. Okay, just to finish off, Liv, have you got any final pieces of advice that you'd like to share with anyone, or I don't know, a message you'd like to leave the students and grads that are watching with?
Ooh. I would say the thing I always think is like, so I know this is called like getting your dream job, and I would say that I definitely have got my dream job in that I wanted to work in radio. I didn't know if it would happen, and now I work in radio and I do love it. But there are always going to be parts of your job that you don't love and that you just have to do. Because I've got a lot of friends now that are in jobs that they wanted to do, and now they're like, oh, but I actually hate this thing that I have to do every Tuesday. I'm like, well, if there's only one thing that you have to do that you don't like, I think that's probably a dream job. Like, there are always going to be parts you don't like, but if the overwhelming feeling you get is that you don't dread going to work and you like the people you work with and you have, you know, you enjoy your job, then I think that's a good, maybe I'm setting the bar too low, but I do think it's my dream job and I love going to work every day, but there are always going to be things I wish I didn't have to do.
I think that's so important. It's definitely, and also the things that you like and dislike about your job will change the longer you do it. You might dislike something about your job because you find it really difficult, or you might dislike something about your job because you've not gained enough experience to do it as well as you'd like to, or, you know, there's the things you like and dislike change. I think that's, dream job doesn't mean that you love every single aspect of it. So I think that's really good advice. Okay, well, I think we'll stop there for today. Thank you so much again for sharing your story with us. To everyone watching, thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow Job Teaser on Twitter at Job Teaser UK and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Job Teaser UK. The next and upcoming Meet the Graduate sessions will be on the events tab on your platform and in your student newsletter. So make sure you come back to listen to some more advice, some more great advice that we've had today. So thank you again, Olivia, and I hope everyone has a great week.
Thank you.